TV and 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake. 89.3 Lakes FM. It's the Megacast, an hour-long TV and radio streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
One in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy, and if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us and all of our partnering stations. Find out where we're airing live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. all throughout Oakland County, including on community television and radio stations in your hometown and online all across the state on My Michigan TV by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast. That's also where you'll find us if you're only able to tune in for part of each and every one of our live shows, or you're only interested in certain segments, certain areas of subject matter that we're talking about on a daily or a weekly basis. You can always find all of our segments on demand as well on civiccentertv.com/megacast. In addition, we have a local news page on civiccentertv.com that we post links to articles from across the state of Michigan each and every day to keep you up to date on what's making headlines and affecting us here in Oakland County and all throughout the Great Lakes state. Our top story this morning comes from Jonathan Osting at Bridge, Michigan, as a new law may soon be in place across Michigan to protect marginalized communities from hate crimes. A bill sponsored by local Democratic State Representative Noah Arbit from West Bloomfield and the Lakes area earlier this year passed in the House of Representatives by a 59-50 margin, sending it on its way to the Michigan State Senate. Should it pass there, where it's likely to do so due to a Democratic majority in that chamber of our state Congress as well, it would then go on to the governor's desk and most likely be signed into law. The legislation, says Representative Arbit, is an update to Michigan's 1988 ethnic intimidation law, with the new bill prohibiting intimidation, harassment, threats of harm, or actual harm made on the basis of sexual or gender identity, gender expression, disability, or age, while still including protections under the 1988 law based on race, religion, gender, and nation of origin. Representative Arbit said that the bill is a culmination of one of the key elements of his campaign for office altogether, stating in a speech on the House floor prior to voting on the bill, quote, "As a proud Jew and gay man, I will never sit idly by and watch as the communities I am part of face rising hatred and violence. Hate violence is different from other kinds of violence because it is terroristic in nature. There is never just one victim of a hate crime. An entire community is victimized too, end closed quote. Michigan law enforcement agencies reported 410 hate crimes in the state of Michigan in 2021. That's the latest year's worth of data that is available at this time. The latest data available from 2021 has Michigan's hate crime numbers at 410 hate crimes over that 1 year long period. That is up from 2020 by a raise of about 8.8%. So that presumably continuing to rise as we've seen more reports over time of hatred toward communities such as the LGBTQ plus community, such as the Jewish community, and more, even in our local area in Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan, with even some reports this week of thwarted plots from a man in East Lansing who was planning an attack, a mass casualty event at a local synagogue as well. More information on this bill can be found in this article from Jonathan Osting and the team at Bridge, Michigan on our website today, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Top of the page, the first article there, click on the headline, click on the thumbnail picture or the link at the bottom of the brief portions of the article that we have included on our website to read the whole article and get even more details on this legislation proposed by one of our local state representatives from our flagship area in West Bloomfield and the Lakes area, Representative Noah Arbit. Also making news this morning on our local news page from the Detroit News is Kara Berg, another victim of the mass shooting at Michigan State University in February, has filed an intent to sue with the Michigan Court of Claims against Michigan State University. John Howe, one of 5 students injured and another 3 killed in the shootings, was shot in the back at Berkey Hall while in class trying to flee out of a window after the 43-year-old gunman fired his initial shots in that classroom in Berkey Hall. Per the intent to sue document, that is what happened to Howe on that day. Additionally, after he was shot, the student was unable to feel his lower body, then using his arms to pull himself toward another victim to help provide them with the help that they needed while awaiting the arrival of first responders for further medical care for both himself and the other victims in that classroom in Berkey Hall as the shooting unfolded. In the following weeks after the shooting, Howe and others that were left victimized but still alive spent a significant amount of time in Howe's case, several weeks, in Lansing's Sparrow Hospital System, where he was ultimately left paralyzed from the chest down and also sustained serious damage to his spinal cord, his vertebrae, and thoracic spine as well. Similar to the other lawsuits, those filed in the Michigan Court of Claims from other victims, Nate Stately and Troy Forbush, as well as documentation submitted by the family of the late Alexandria Verner, one of the 3 students killed that night, one of the 2 that were killed in that classroom at Berkey Hall. Howe's attorneys argued that Michigan State University, its Department of Public Safety and Police, as well as the Facilities Department, acted with gross negligence and failed to protect the students, faculty, staff, and the public at MSU. Among several items listed to rationalize these claims were open access to classroom buildings to the public, even during evening hours as classes continued on, but presumably the public wouldn't have any need to use those buildings. A lack of internal locks on classroom doors or security or patrol officers protecting classroom buildings without such protections in place. A security camera system that did not thoroughly cover the entirety of the campus or provide real-time display in order to monitor areas of the campus, choosing not to lock buildings when the capability was there on the night of the shooting to further protect students, and not hiring a qualified consultant or consulting firm to evaluate MSU's potential readiness or liability in the event of an active shooter situation prior to February 13th of this year. This list continues on. There's plenty more and even more specifics about what is being claimed as part of this gross negligence alleged against Michigan State University by John Howe's attorneys in his document indicating his intent to sue the university in the Michigan Court of Claims. Take a look at that and read the full story for more information and points made about this alleged gross negligence from Howe's attorney. In response to John Howe's notification of his intent to sue Michigan State University, MSU spokesperson Dan Olson in a statement said, quote, "Many lives among our community have been profoundly impacted by the violence our campus experienced. We are heartbroken and sorry for the tragic loss of life and each person harmed by senseless gun violence. MSU has been engaged in conversations with the families of those that we lost and those injured to identify ways to provide ongoing support, and we are committed to keeping those lines of communication open, and closed quote. This is a statement that was nearly identical to those made after documentation was submitted to the Michigan Court of Claims for an intent to sue by Nate Stately and Troy Forbush, both within the same time period of one another, and shortly after that, other documentation, but not necessarily an intent to sue, that was submitted by the family of the late Alexandria Furness. Very similar statements, if not identical, made by MSU spokesperson Dan Olson to the public after these announcements were made in the press. Full article can be found from the Detroit News Today and Kara Berg at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Great reporting being done here. A lot of information about this lawsuit, supporting information from other lawsuits, and other information you can find that provides context and more information about what we now know about the MSU shooting that happened on February 13th. Some of the details that went into beforehand, but that went into the response, the delays in the response, the faults that were there in the response from MSU and from public safety departments in East Lansing and nearby that responded that night, as well as the residual effects now on the victims of this shooting, and of course information on the lawsuits by John Howe, the fourth student or student family to file a lawsuit against Michigan State University, or at least an intent to sue against Michigan State University. Additionally, making news today on our local news page from Peg McNichol at the Oakland Press, Governor Gretchen Whitmer's European Business Investment Summit has brought good news for the economy right here in Oakland County, as automotive research and development company Expleo US Incorporated announced its intentions to build a new research and development facility right here in our local area. The new addition to our local business community will bring along with it a $2 million investment in a new facility, as well as just under 200 new high-wage jobs centered on production and perfection of electric vehicles, which appears to be the way of the future in the automotive sector. Governor Whitmer told the press her administration has brought in over 82,000 jobs to the state of Michigan, and that unemployment in the state is below 4% for the first time since the 1970s. In response to Expleo's intent to open an Oakland County branch, Governor Whitmer stated, quote, Expleo chose to invest in Michigan because of our strong mobility, business environment, inclusive laws, skilled workforce, and ongoing economic momentum to ensure anyone can make it in Michigan. We'll keep our foot on the accelerator to keep winning projects, investing in people, and revitalizing places so we can build a brighter future for Michigan. Let's get it done, end closed quote. The Executive Vice President of Automotive, Marcus Gangwin from Expleo US Incorporated, expressed excitement about the new facility and the potential for strong partnerships in the local automotive industry, saying, quote, with our move into Oakland County, Michigan, we will be able to partner with its community of automotive businesses to provide the deeply integrated engineering and technology services needed to address the most pressing challenges facing our industry, such as e-mobility, electric mobility, end closed quote. More details on the plans for Expleo USA's new facility right here in Oakland County are expected to be made public later on this month. You can find more details and quotes from the announcement made yesterday or earlier this week, as well as more information found from the Oakland Press in their reporting from Peg McNichol on this story. Linked in this article, civiccentertv.com on our local news page. It's the third article down today from the Oakland Press, and Peg McNichol doing a great job reporting on a very good story here in Oakland County as another business moving into our local area from internationally, bringing more jobs available to our local area and trying to revitalize parts of the automotive industry as the automotive industry continues to transition toward an electric vehicle-focused future. So Oakland County potentially going to be playing a big role in that innovation going forward. And great news, $2 million investment in a new facility coming somewhere in Oakland County. There's no indication, at least at this moment, where that might be inside Oakland County, but it will be in Oakland County, as well as nearly 200 jobs coming our way in the automotive industry. So some good news this morning from the Oakland Press on our local news page, civiccentertv.com. In addition, making headlines today on our local news page from the Novi Notes Charity Meyer, State Representative Kelly Breen, a Democrat from Novi, along with Republican Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard, are working in tandem to address a new conflict in our local communities' fight against the rising danger of fentanyl overdoses. In recent months, an animal tranquilizer called xylazine, known on the illicit drug market simply as Tranq, has been added to illegally produced and traded fentanyl, making the already deadly substance even more harmful, as the combination with Tranq reduces the ability of Narcan, which is a life-saving substance used to help prevent overdoses, from working at least on the first try in many cases. Sheriff Bouchard said this has become a growing issue here in Oakland County, where now about 85% of fentanyl that is seized on illicit markets has been found to be laced with xylazine. Said the sheriff, quote, "It's a huge, huge threat to health and a big problem," and close quote. Fentanyl is sometimes used in medical treatment as a painkiller, but in extremely small doses. On the streets, on the illicit market, it's sold to get high and to get high fast, often leading to deadly overdoses that have been seen in significant numbers, not just here in our local area, but all throughout the U.S. and around the world in recent years. Xylazine, however, is not used on humans. It's not intended for humans, and when it is ingested by human beings through illicit drugs such as fentanyl that is laced with it or by other means, it can lead to certain effects such as skin decay, chronic wounds, infection, mental health effects, or even brain damage. Which means fentanyl on our streets is potentially even more dangerous now than before. Again, I can't stress this enough in this article. One of the most striking facts that was stated was Sheriff Bouchard mentioning that in Oakland County recently, 85% of the fentanyl seized from the illegal market was laced with xylazine. So keep that in mind. It makes treating fentanyl overdoses with Narcan slightly more or significantly more difficult. Sometimes that life-saving Narcan does not do the trick on the first try as a result of this being laced with xylazine, which offsets some of the effects of Narcan. That's why Representative Breen announced with the sheriff that she'll be introducing legislation in Michigan that will make the currently easily accessible xylazine a Schedule II narcotic in our state, and will only be permitted for its intended use in veterinary medicine. Again, this is a medication that is used for animals, not intended for humans, where it has a number of significant side effects. Representative Breen is expected to introduce legislation to make this happen later on in the month, telling the public in a statement, quote, "There is nothing more important to me than the safety of our community, of the community that I represent, so I won't want to be able to drop this legislation quickly," and closed quote. In the meantime, all the more reason to be more aware of where that life-saving naloxone or Narcan is available in your community. We had a story very recently that we had been talking about on the Megacast that was related to certain drop locations for Narcan in our local community. That includes some that were added earlier on recently this week in Berkeley. Berkeley adding free Narcan kits in partnership with Families Against Narcotics at their city hall, their public safety department, their library, and their parks and recreation buildings. In addition, other locations such as right down the street from our station at Civic Center TV, our flagship at West Bloomfield Town Hall, and other buildings across the greater West Bloomfield area. There is a partnership with the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities that has Save a Life stations that include nasal Narcan in there as well, and also both the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, Families Against Narcotics, and many other organizations also hold Narcan training so that you'll be able to better recognize what a fentanyl overdose may look like, or other opioid overdoses may look like that could potentially be prevented, or you may be able to save a life by administering Narcan to someone that is experiencing an overdose. You can get that training and find even more information from these different organizations. Search Families Against Narcotics or the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, and you can find even more information on some of those trainings. Again, if you do recognize that someone may be experiencing an overdose and you don't know where to find Narcan, or you don't have Narcan on your person yourself to use on them, there are locations throughout our local community. If you're in the Berkeley area, that's at the Public Safety Department, the library, City Hall, and parks and recreation buildings, where they have what are called rescue boxes that include free Narcan. Same goes for the greater West Bloomfield community and several other areas of our local community that also include Save a Life boxes, as they're called, from Save a Life stations, my apologies, as they're called, from the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. Both the article from earlier on this week about the free Narcan kits in Berkeley that has more information on where they're found throughout southeastern Michigan can be found on our local news page, as well as this article from CNG News' The Novi Note about Representative Kelly Breen, a Democrat from Novi in the state legislature, looking to introduce legislation that would make xylazine, an animal tranquilizer that has been laced in illicit fentanyl sales lately, making that a Schedule II narcotic in the state of Michigan. Plenty of information about these stories can be found on our local news page by clicking through these articles. The one today is from the Novi Note. The one from earlier on this week about the Narcan stations in Berkeley and other places in our local communities was from the Oakland Press. CivicCenterTV.com on our local news page for all of that. In addition, making news today on our local news page, finally today from the Detroit News' Hannah McKay, Magen David Adom from the Israeli National Paramedic Service visited a local synagogue in Southfield this week to help synagogue members and the first responders prepare themselves for the hopefully unlikely but still very real possibility, unfortunately, of an active shooter or other mass casualty event as anti-Semitical acts have risen across the U.S. as well as here in Michigan in recent years. The director of the organization, Yonatan Yagodovsky, said that the first few minutes of a mass casualty event are arguably the most important in saving lives and preventing further loss of life, saying that the first 7 minutes, in fact, are the key time frame. Quote, if something happens, somebody first needs to take charge. If people are hurt, we have a few minutes to get them a better chance to survive, and close quote. Congregation Sharei Zedek, a synagogue in Southfield where the simulation and exercise took place, takes its security very seriously, says Executive Director Robert Rich, who told the Detroit News that they have hosted several training sessions in first aid and trauma response, later stating that this is the first time they've brought in experts from Israel in order to provide more extensive training. Members of the congregation were taught to prioritize safety in their response, get to safety, call for help, help others, and keep yourself safe. Those being the key elements of this training session. In addition, the training session included mock 911 calls being practiced in order to help members understand the critical information that they are most likely going to need to give dispatchers and other public safety responders in the event of an emergency, so that when they do get on site, when first responders, whether police, fire, EMS, or others do get on site, they know what they're getting into. They have a bit of a better idea of the lay of the land, what has gone on, what is currently the biggest emergency in terms of triaging those that are injured, how to organize the scene, as well as how to organize the scene so that first responders can easily respond and help those that are most in need of immediate medical care or other care when they do arrive on site. Yagodovsky also told the news that preparation overall is as key as anything in increasing the survival rate and preventing further tragedy when tragedy does strike locations like a local synagogue, saying, quote, training builds resilience in the community. It gives them the know-how that they can act even if it is intimidating, and closed quote. An unfortunate reality nowadays that we have to be prepared for, as we know that in our schools from elementary all the way through high school, that lockdown drills, that active shooter drills are being practiced year in and year out in the event that a tragedy like a mass casualty event or a mass shooting that would also be under that category may happen in our local schools, our local houses of worship, or other public places where people frequent each and every day. It's a scary reality, but something that maybe perhaps can make that scary reality a little bit simpler, let's say, or not simpler, a little bit, not that it ever gets easier, but it would make it maybe a little easier to respond as an individual, is having that training and know-how of, if this is something that I ever encounter, this is what I have to do to keep myself safe and to keep as many people around me safe and alive as possible. So that's part of what that training was all centered on. That full article from our friends at the Detroit News, Hannah McKay did a great job with this, putting plenty of information into this article about what went into the training, as well as the purpose of this training that happened in Southfield recently. That article is linked on our website today, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll talk about some performing arts summer camp opportunities this summer. Then later on, the latest in Michigan and national politics with Dave Dulio from Oakland University. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy, and if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us and all of our partnering stations all throughout Oakland County and around the state of Michigan by visiting our website on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. We have links to every single one of our partnering stations, those that join us live Monday through Friday, each and every day from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and also join us live to tape throughout the afternoons and evenings all across Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan. And you can find even more about their original programming, all about your own local communities on our website as well, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. That's also the place to go to find our full episodes and each individual segment on demand, so that if you're not able to join us for our live shows or live to tape re-airings all throughout Oakland County during the day on cable television or on the radio or even online, you can always find us anytime and on your time on demand. civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us now on the program is Darell "Red" Campbell Jr., the Performing Arts Summer Camp Program Director at the Union's Keys to Life on today's edition of the Megacast. Darell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, man, thanks for having me here, man. It's so cool to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on the program today. For those that may not be familiar with this summer camp, tell us about the camp and what kids will experience and what they will learn over the course of the next several weeks if they're joining in.
Cool. It's a 5-week summer camp at the Northwest Activity Center. It's called Keys to Life. It's a performing arts summer camp where we do songwriting, beat making, acting, and dancing to a final musical at the end of the camp, which is July 30th. So we start on the 26th, end on the 30th, 5 weeks of intense training on those 4 subjects, dancing, acting, beat making, and songwriting. And we do a play at the end. It's an original play that we write, and the kids have an amazing time just learning those things. Half the day is performing arts until 12 o'clock, and then after that, until 3 o'clock, we do life skills, which is a big thing for all of our kids and just people in the community in general. We just teach abstinence and drug prevention and just how to make good decisions and how to be a great person in society. So that's what we do for half of the day. The other half, we do performing arts, and then we end it in a big play, and it's amazing. This is our 10th year of camp, and we're just looking forward to some really cool stuff with these guys.
So you mentioned, Red, the 10th year of this camp going on. It's happening again. It begins actually next week. From June 26th through July 28th. It's a day camp, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. More information can be found on the Yunion.org. That's THEYUNION.org for more information. So what did kids get out of this camp? What have you noticed, or has the team noticed at the Union over the last 10 years of running this that really shows the impact it can have on a kid over the course of those 5 weeks?
So a lot of our kids are beginners. Most of our kids are beginners. They've never had a lot of experience doing with songwriting or beat making or acting and things like that. So we do a lot of things to get them out of their shell and trying new things. Experience is one of those things that just like kind of broadens your horizon and opens your mind to new things and new opportunities. So we just like to give that experience, time to have that experience, and then they just try new stuff. That's one thing. And then through that experience, like they just gain confidence. A lot of our kids become workers in the camp. So after 14 years old, then they get a job and they're going to college now, using the skills that they learned through camp, then giving them the confidence and just like the life skills to navigate through those things that they, go through in high school and even in college. So I think those are some big things that they learn from our camp.
Yeah, but the performing arts, it's so interesting. We often focus on the actual art itself as being that focal point of the results that we see on the other side of these creative endeavors. But especially for these young kids, especially in this age group that you're focusing on, teaching performing arts, whether it is songwriting or beat making or producing a musical, can have life lessons involved that can span them, as you said, throughout their childhood and even beyond.
And they get a community of other young kids doing the same thing. Like my best friends are people that I met back in programs when I was 13 and 12 years old. And like, they were the best men in my weddings and things like that. So like those things, being able to have a community to try new things and have a safe space just to figure it out. Like we all need that, right? And so at 11, 12, and 13 years old, they get a cool community to try things and just expand their horizon, get new experiences. So that's super huge for us. And we don't focus so much just on the performing arts. Like that's almost like a carrot that we dangle. Everybody has a favorite song, and we teach them things about musicals and things like that. But it's the life skills. We all need life skills, and so having a safe space to talk about things that they're having feelings about, or just navigating from middle school to high school. My God, that's just a huge thing too. So yeah, just having the safe space to figure those things out is what we're all about.
And having that safe space, too, to tap into their creativity and build that creativity that so often is not necessarily eliminated over the course of their childhood, but tends to get crushed over time. This helps build that back up and use it in ways that they can build other life skills outside of the performing arts.
Yeah, if they have the performing arts and then we can teach the life skills to help sustain that stuff, then like you don't become a starving artist, right? You become an artist who has life skills to figure out how to keep being a performing arts student, a performing artist. So yeah, that's super huge for us, is just giving the opportunity and the experience to just think about things differently. And even in performing arts, it's not just about being an actor or a dancer or a songwriter. Like there's other career paths to find in that. You could be a manager. You could be, behind the scenes with things. You could be a tech person. And so we like to be able to show those things and give the opportunity to figure it out where you may not have that opportunity anywhere else. You don't have to be an actress. You could be a writer. You could be a songwriter. You could be a lighting director. And so being able to figure out those career paths at 11, 12, and 13 can make you like the LeBron of those things, So that's really, really, really big for us.
Joining us on the program today is Red Campbell Jr. He is the Performing Arts Summer Camp Program Director at the Union's Keys to Life program. You can find more information on the summer camp and other programs through the Union's Keys to Life by visiting theunion.org. That is the Union, YUNION.org for more information. Red, who are these summer camps available to, and when is the time frame for people if they want to get their kids involved in this 5-week camp?
Cool. Applications are still open. Camp doesn't start until Monday, but the sooner you get in, the better. We have scholarships for Detroit residents who identify with risk factors in school. So whether it be like truancy or like just having hard time in school with anything like that, if parents identify their children with that we have scholarships available. And those scholarships are available on first come, first served basis. And we still have some of those available now. So you want to get those, as soon as possible. Camp registration will close on Saturday. And so just a few more days to register your kids. We have a few more spots available. And if we fill up before then, I can't say anything, this broadcast is a little late, but we've got just a few more slots available, open to anybody, but we have scholarships available for Detroit residents who identify with different risk factors.
The website to find more information is theyunion.org, THEYUNION.org/camp. If you're watching on your screens, you're seeing that pop up every now and then at the bottom of the screen. If you're listening on our radio partners, civiccentertv.com/Megacast, you'll see this interview available to you on demand later on in the day after our live show, and get the link right there as well. Joining us on the program is Red Campbell Jr., the camp's program director at the Union's Keys to Life Performing Arts Summer Camp. And in terms of the impact across time, what have you and others from this camp seen in terms of how this has really had an impact on the youth of Detroit and the local area?
The cool thing is, now that we're in Northwest Activity Center, we're in a hub where we can just reach out to different children or different people just in this community. So that's a cool thing. We used to be at Wayne State, partnering with the theater and dance department, but now here being at Northwest Activity Center, we're in a community where some of these families have not had musical experience or may not have it in their schools. So that's a cool thing, just being here in this space. Also, we get, like, I keep using this word experience, but people having new experiences broadens their horizons, broadens their mind, changes even their thoughts about themselves. And so being able to offer those experiences and give a young person an opportunity to try something new is so huge. And we've been able to see some young people. We were on the news earlier, and we had some young people who were with me who have scholarships to college and things because they were able to try stuff here at camp. Even there's some artists who have been discovered here. They didn't know that they could write songs, didn't know they were such great singers, and we kind of help them navigate those things. And as they become an 18 and 19-year-old high school graduate, now you can be a real artist and help put out music. And even in the beat making class, we put out a mixtape where there's all produced by things that people wrote in camp. And so you'll never forget that experience at 12 and 13 when you put out music. You had it streamed and it was on the SoundCloud page and things like that. So it's all about experience, man. It's all about being able to try new stuff, and we help people navigate through those things.
Yeah, they're building these skills, they're exploring these interests, but who are they doing that with? Who are teaching these kids these different skills and these different performing arts?
That's great. We have industry professionals. We have a beat making teacher who has been, toured with Charlie Wilson and done things with Eminem, and myself too. I've done things with Eminem and Royce 5'9" and a bunch of different artists. I'm a touring artist and musician myself. Our songwriting teacher was on Beyonce's songwriting team. Our acting teacher is a Howard student who's just got all this bright information, and she's got this network of people. She used to be in Detroit Youth Choir. And so they're getting experience with people who are industry professionals doing it and also been through camp. So they had the camp experience and figured out things and how to navigate in the city. And they've got tools that are ingrained in them that are the same as what the kids are going through. So they kind of relate to them too. The life skills teachers are people who are in the community and are like family to us. That's the other thing about the Union here. Everything just becomes a big family. These are my, little cousins and nieces and nephews now. And my son's in the camp too. So we are family and we become family, and the network is just insane. It's out of this world, man.
And so for you, Red, and your colleagues, how does that make that satisfaction of those aha moments that you so often see with kids when they're in these sort of experiences and they're in these sort of learning opportunities, to see them reach that point that you've been at, that others that have gone through this camp and are now teaching at this camp and working in this sector in the economy? What are those moments like for you?
Amazing. So I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have amazing mentors. I had Marcus Belgrave. I had amazing football coaches when I was 11 and 12 years old. The mentors that I had helped scope me into what I am today. When I graduated high school, I went straight on tour because I had amazing mentors who just needed musicians. And so now that I'm able to be that person, to be able to have experiences of my own and be able to give those back to the young people is the most gratifying thing in the world. I would rather do that than tour at this point. My last, huge date that I did was the inauguration for our president a couple years ago. And I was like, I would rather be at home. And to be able to give these opportunities to the young people that are coming up, is almost a monster that feeds itself too, because now I get to keep teaching, and they need jobs. I can find jobs and just help create those experiences for them too. So it's an amazing feeling. It's almost better than playing for me. So yeah.
For other creatives that may want to get involved in something like this, excuse me, in the future, what advice do you have for them about just how satisfying this can be to help that next generation of creatives, or just even that next generation in their home community to find these different interests and build these different skills?
That's actually something that I teach, is that remember at some point we needed somebody to help us. And when I was 11, 12, 13, 14, when I had the mentors that I had, they helped me, but realizing now as the adult helping, they're helping me too, because I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to do things that, that sometimes it's called entry-level jobs or things like that, or, gigs that I don't want to be doing. I can teach and hand off to other people. So it's a kind of a thing that kind of helps yourself. As a musician or an engineer or a writer or anything that, the industry that you're in, if you give back and teach the other people, the younger people, you just automatically create these like coworkers now who have more energy. They're more vibrant. They don't have as many holdbacks as us. They're 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. They don't have kids and other bills and things like that. So they can stay out all day, And so they can do things that we can't. It's almost like you become an octopus who has all these hands now and these tentacles that you can reach out different places because you have like almost trained a team to do things with you. And so as an artist, if you have young artists that you're helping out, you become a songwriter with them. They get to do more shows that you don't do. Their ears to the street. So they're apprised to a genre of things that we kind of find out secondhand. They're living through it. And so as an engineer, or like I said, as a creative, it kind of helps you to teach, to reach back. And then you also automatically build in a fan base. As an older person, if you have younger people who are automatically supporters of yours, then that becomes your street team. That becomes your, I'm kind of giving out some of my intellectual property now, but yeah, it's a thing that kind of just helps you help yourself. You don't have to work as hard.
You can find more information on theyunion.org/camp and find ways that you can sign up for the camp, get involved yourself, or just to check out some of the great work they've been doing over there. Red, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. And again, you can find things at theyunion.org, which is THEYUNION.org. And the camp, I'm sorry, the lights went off here. I'm sorry, I'm in the office. But yeah, that's where you can find more information about the camp. And yeah, we'd love to have you.
Theunion.org is the place to go for more information. Theunion.org/camp is where you'll find even more information on the camp specifically that begins on Monday, June 26th, runs through July 28th. It is a day camp, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Northwest Activity Center in Detroit. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, plenty happening in Michigan and state and U.S. politics that may impact the 2024 election, including Michigan's power in that election, particularly on the Republican side of the aisle. We'll talk to Dave Dulio from Oakland University about that and more coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where children trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, Pauline ate a flush. Ooh, I smell cookies.
I smell an A+.
How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, Sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick.
The virus will die.
It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine.
To keep safe and strong.
Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us and our partnering stations all throughout Oakland County and across the state of Michigan by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast. That's where you'll also find links to find our full episodes and each individual segment on demand. So whether you're able to join us each and every day, or some days and some not, live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Each throughout our network on TV, radio, and streaming, or you will want to watch us on your own time sometime later on in the day, or even over the weekend, you can always find us on demand, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Plenty still going on in politics, both in the state of Michigan and around the U.S. as we get closer and closer to being in the thick of the 2024 election season. Joining us on the Megacast today, as he does each and every week to talk about the latest in politics, is Distinguished Professor of Political Science and Director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, Dave Dulio. Dave, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on as we have some news from right here in the state of Michigan, as the Michigan Republican Party recently announcing that it had passed new rules for the 2024 primary election that would move the state not entirely out of a popular vote system, but the majority of the power of deciding Michigan's nominee for the Republican Party nomination being from caucuses, with about 1/3 continuing to be impacted by the popular vote. In terms of how this impacts Michigan's Republican Party, how does that have an impact on 2024? Does it lean one way or the other in terms of supporting Trump or other candidates that may pop up?
Sure. So I think some context here is important. The Michigan Republican Party here was in a bit of a bind because the state legislature last year, or earlier this year, scheduled the presidential primary for February 27th. And that is state law, but that state law violates the National Republican Party rules that doesn't permit states, except for a few, handpicked, that to have a primary before March 1st. So the MIGOP was sort of damned if they do, damned if they don't kind of thing. And what they did is try to strike a balance and have a primary, be able to have that that usual process, but also try to use this caucus that isn't going to violate national party rules. And I believe they're still going to have to get a sign off from the RNC to approve this plan so that they're not violating party rules. And but I think it's an attempt to sort of navigate the minefield of party rules. So but to your point, the caucus system is used in many states. Famously in Iowa, although it's a lot different there. It has been a lot different there than it would play out here. Nevada is a caucus state. There are a bunch of others. So the fact that it's a caucus isn't necessarily totally foreign, but I think it unquestionably favors Donald Trump. The way I read the reports about how this is going to get set up is that it'll likely be dominated by Trump loyalists, and I think that he's going to probably clean up on national convention delegates in that part of the process.
And this creates a key swing in the Republican primary, because the state of Michigan becoming even more important in national politics. If you're able to win Michigan's nomination on your party side, you become a little bit more of a power in the general election as well. And so with it coming down to Trump and DeSantis, what may Ron DeSantis do to try to counteract the power that this may have in terms of swinging things in Michigan toward Donald Trump?
Well, I think he's going to have to. Well, let me put it this way: the nomination is won only by securing the requisite number of delegates to the national convention. That is what, at the end of the day, is going to get a candidate the nomination. So, if there are, Michigan's not the only state where the process is going to favor Trump. DeSantis is going to have to find delegates in other states, right? That's where he's going to have to make hay where he is able to. And a good example is Florida. If they use, obviously his home state, if they use the same kind of rules that they've used in the past, the winner of the Florida primary gets all of those delegates. It's a winner take all state. So DeSantis can, in those instances, use the rules to his advantage.
And we've seen the rhetoric between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis in recent weeks really start to ramp up, even as we're well away from the first primaries for the 2024 nominations coming into play, as Trump this week calling Ron DeSantis disloyal for recent attacks that he's made on Donald Trump, and going as far as to pretty verbatim say, I made Ron DeSantis, I got him elected. How much should we expect this to really continue to ramp up, especially this early? I mean, this is kind of surprising that both of these sides, both Trump's camp and DeSantis's camp, are going so aggressively toward the other well before we're even going to be going anywhere near the polls.
Yeah, I think Trump has had his foot on the gas a bit more than DeSantis in this regard. Although the Florida governor has punched back a little bit. I think you're going to see Trump keep it up. He's at his best politically when he is aggressive and when he is defiant and when he is confrontational. So, that's worked for him in the past, and I think he's going to keep trying it till it fails.
And to keep on the note of Donald Trump's campaign, recently indicted on federal charges in relation to documents, both classified and top secret, that were located at Mar-a-Lago on his person following his presidency, which is in violation of the law. And so even more federal charges coming against him. He was indicted in Florida this time around as opposed to New York for previous charges. But all these indictments that are coming forward, in some ways they've been beneficial to him in the polls and in terms of his notoriety within the Republican Party. In other ways, it may be a detractor. How do you think these federal charges affect him, especially given that there have been similar issues with both former Vice President Mike Pence and President Joe Biden?
It plays right into his hands, right? I think that that Trump was going to use these indictments and the comparisons to other elected officials. You mentioned it, and he's going to use the Biden example and say, look, they're after me. It's a witch hunt. This is political, and the polling around this shows that a sizable chunk of the country and obviously an even bigger part of the GOP thinks that this is a political prosecution, and so that helps him. I think his rhetoric has been interesting since it came out, right? I mean, he's often said that to his supporters, look, they're not just coming after me, they're coming after you. And I think that even ramps it up even further. So, this has to this point, it's helped. I wonder if, and who knows how long the trial is going to take. We've had a trial date set for August 14th. If that sticks, how long does a trial take? When do we get a verdict? It might happen in the middle of the primary season. Who knows how topsy-turvy this whole thing could get.
Yeah, and on that note, especially as we get further on into these trials, maybe there is a verdict date that is somewhere put in the middle of the primaries or even before the primaries really get underway. How might that make Republicans, especially on the national level, more reluctant to maybe vote to nominate Trump for the Republican nomination, given that he could potentially be convicted on federal charges while running for president against Joe Biden?
Yeah, I think that the most damaging piece of this for Trump could be in how Americans view his electability. If enough Republicans see him as somebody who can't win the general election, even though they might want to support it, if they get some pragmatism to come around and see a convicted Donald Trump be the front runner, yet they see him as having too much baggage to lose so that he'd lose to Biden, I think that might turn things. But short of that, I think that his supporters and even some, certainly his most strident supporters are probably never going to leave him. But some of those soft supporters who might like Trump's policies or like the results that he got in his 4 years in office, they might start to drop off and say, okay, look, I like Trump, but I want to win the presidency. I don't want to have another 4 years of Joe Biden.
Yeah, this issue could be a key in whether Donald Trump gets the nomination on the Republican side and is competitive for president or not. And as more information on this indictment, as more information on this trial comes out over time, could that have an impact? That is to be seen later on. Dave, thank you as always for joining us.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Dave Dulio from Oakland University. He is a distinguished professor of political science and the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. As we get closer into the fall and into the primary season, there'll be plenty of more information and discussions to be had about politics, both statewide and federally, all throughout our community through the Center for Civic Engagement. You can always keep up to date with them at oakland.edu/CCE. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. A huge thank you to all of our guests for taking time out of their day to join us to keep you informed on what's going on in our community, in politics, in news, and entertainment, and in activities all throughout our local area. You can always join us live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. all throughout our network, and find us on demand on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Huge thank you as well, as always, to our crew, Jared Clark at the studio of our co-flagship, My Michigan TV statewide, and our director making everything happen each and every day at Civic Center TV, Calvin Brown. Huge thank you to him as well. Until next time, I'm Tyler Kieft. Take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.